Hi, I'm Chef Marc Orfaly. I'm from Pigalle Restaurant in Boston, Massachusetts, and whenever there's cold weather, nothing I like better than a little beef stew or anything stewed. Chefs love that kind of thing. So for today, we are doing a great version of beef stew or French version of classic beef bourguignon. Either way you look at it, it's great. This is going to require a very basic cut of meat from any good supermarket or local butcher. This is a chuck of beef. It comes in a big piece. Classically, you could also, this is also what you do for a pot roast, is a whole piece. For what I've done it for, we've cubed it up. So this is typically what it looks like as you would get it from the supermarket. If you can't find it in the aisle, I'm sure you can ask the butcher. You can ask her for smaller or larger, depending on the size of your family. And this is how I've cubed it. And again, you might want to go a little bit larger, a little bit smaller, but this is typically a good size I've found over the years. So this is very easy. We're just going to put this in a non-reactive stainless steel pan because we're going to be putting red wine in it. So I'm just going to slide that in there like that. Here are our basic stewing ingredients, which are, aside from the meat, onion, carrot, and celery. And we're going to finish this off with our herbs, bay leaf and thyme. I'm just going to add the red wine as so. And then we're going to use all this wine the next day for cooking, so none of it's going to waste. So I'm just going to push it around like that. Like you can see, there's plenty of room in there. I didn't overcrowd the pan or the meat. And then just going to slide a little plastic wrap over this. This will stay for 1 day or even up to 3 days like this until you're ready to cook it off. Our beef is all set. It's nice and drunk. It looks like it's been suffocated. It's so purple. And that's perfect. That's exactly how you want it. So I've taken it out of the wine. We're going to let it dry just so that the seasoning and the flour is going to adhere to it a little bit better. Season it with salt and some cracked black pepper. Turn it over here. And the great thing about this is, once you have this in your fridge and it's done, this is a great meal all on its own that will last in your fridge for a while. So, okay, I'm going to let that heat up for a second, and I'm just going to, when you're dredging the flour, you just want a light dredge. It doesn't need to be soaked in the flour. I'm just going to pat it off. And basically what the flour is doing is, in addition to helping the beef get a great sear on the outside, it's also going to help thicken the sauce. Okay, so that looks great. You can always flick a little bit of the flour in to see if it starts frying up on the top, which it did. So, and again, you want a nice medium heat. It doesn't have to be, it shouldn't be roaring hot, but also you want it to be hot enough because the meat is just going to start absorbing the flour, and you don't want that either. And that's the sound we're looking for, the snap, crackle, pop. We're going to let this get golden brown on both sides. We're going to pull this out, and then we're going to add the vegetables back to the pan. Okay, so we've been searing our beef, and it looks beautiful. It's nice and golden brown on the outside. It's going to really help lock in the juices. And the biggest thing is you want to be patient while you're searing it off. You don't need to play around with it too much because you're going to break the nice crust that you've gotten on the outside of the meat. So when the pieces are basically moving on their own, you've created a nice seal. I've done that on both sides, so it's time to take it out. And I'm just going to lay it on this paper towel. So I've taken all the meat out here. I'm going to just lower the heat a little bit. I'm going to add some rough chopped garlic. It doesn't have to be finely chopped because it's going to dissolve during the cooking process, but And it doesn't need to be golden either. You're just going to lightly sweat it, no color. And then at that point we're going to add the rest of our mirepoix and our herbs to this. This is my red wine that we've strained from the vegetables. As soon as the vegetables are nice and soft, we're going to deglaze with the red wine. So the red wine again is going to give this stew great body and flavor, and we're also going to get to deglaze, we're going to get all the little pieces of meat that are really great flavor that are kind of stuck at the bottom of the pan. Okay, so our vegetables are nice and soft, so at this point we're going to add the red wine. And we're going to raise the heat. And we're going to bring this to about a little less than half of the original volume that you started with. Okay, so we've let our red wine reduce by more than half. You don't have to go a lot more than that because the wine will just become very acidic and tannic. So at that point we've reduced it by enough. We have our vegetables in there, are great, and we're going to take the beef. We can lower the heat now. Just to a simmer, we're going to add the beef back to the pot, and there should be plenty of room around the beef. And like I said, the flour is going to help thicken that. Now, most restaurants obviously have plenty of stock. Most home cooks do not. So I highly recommend chicken or beef broth, low sodium, and that's going to have plenty of good flavor. We can always re-season it. It's going to have a little bit of a gelatinous quality to it, and you don't have to go through the whole process of making stocks of your own home. It's typically what I use also when I'm cooking at home. So we're going to add that. To the beef. We're going to cover this, and then we're going to bake it in the oven. If you have a cooked top, you could set it for about 3 hours at 350. For this, though, I'm just going to put it in the oven, 350 for about 3 hours until the meat is not completely falling apart, but nice and tender, and then you're perfect. So we're done. I love it. It's time to chow. So, like I was saying before, this is great because it will stay in the fridge for a while. You could even freeze it if you like, and continually just keep reheating it. And I like when it sits for a few days. Actually, I think it gets better over time. Now, this is a very basic beef stew recipe. At this point, you could garnish it with whatever you like. Classic Bourguignon is onion, which we already have, mushrooms, and bacon. Not everyone likes bacon. Not everyone likes mushrooms. If you do, these ingredients are easy to add at that time. As you can see, the beef is beautiful, looks really tender, and the other thing is not dry also. So, and if you like, little chef secret, you can always sneak a little butter in there at the end. I won't tell anyone that you did it, and that can be our secret. Little chopped parsley, scallion. Also make sure that you taste the stew at the end. It might need a little bit more salt and pepper, and you can always add a little bit more pepper if you like to the top. Here's our delicious beef stew. I've just finished it with a little bit of herb, and bon appetit.